episode 6 of the Dugout Dad's Local Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Hughes, with my co host,
Jonathan Parker.
where our skills are questionable.
But our spirit is unstoppable.
Guys, want to welcome everyone to our show tonight. You see, we're having a remote show tonight once again. Jonathan's at home in Riddleton, Matthew's at home in Rome, and I'm kind of away from the house at the beach, as you can see my backdrop.
Just why don't you rub it in a little bit?
Just a little. That's all we need is just a little. I mean, you haven't done it, the whole time we've been on pre-show.
Well, so you see the guys have the Dugout Dad's backdrop. I just figured I'd give everybody a peek of what I get to look at for the rest of the week.
You can send your hate mail to michael.hughes. No.
Well, what a great view, Michael. I mean,
it is,
it's, beautiful.
It is beautiful. It's a treat. We don't know right now, but there could be a treat that the Blue Angels fly by at around 6:50 or so. My wife was looking that up earlier, and they may come by doing a training at about 6:50. So, something cool for viewers to see, hopefully.
And that'll be pretty awesome. And Michael, another week in the books for high school and college, and of course, pro still going on today. A lot of exciting getting into region play with high school. Starting to see a lot of conference play in college football, and man, there's been some upsets in college football this weekend, and a lot of great things happening in high school as well.
There was, and then we get into college ranks, man, and I love how college football and I tell you this all the time. We talk about NFL, we talk about college. I am a college football guy, and you look at any week somebody can beat somebody, right? And it's just a show that college football puts on that, to me, NFL just don't put on the same type of game that the college does. And then, you're right about the high school level too. You look at some great high school matchups this week. We had region play starting for Smith County and Gornsville, but then you look at up on the plateau, you had Upperman versus Beach. So what a great time for football right now.
Absolutely, and you talk about, so you look at. There's some coaches out there in the college ranks that are their seats getting a little hot. You look at Billy Napier in Florida, losing again last night to Miami. You look at Dabo Sweeney, the fighting Dabos, and he seems like a crybaby at times. And, he gets on his show last week and says, well, if you want to fire me, fire me. Well, you're giving him ammunition right now to do that. So, the product that they're putting on the field for a team that really had some high expectations, and again, which kind of the Florida State of 2025.
Yeah, and before we jump in and actually go into tonight's show, guys, we do what we always do. We got to thank our sponsors, right? We got to thank our sponsor, Kobe McKinney, once again with Underwood Realty, who is our title sponsor this year. We appreciate what Kobe does, and we even had our little write-up on Smith County Insider that Kobe done for us, which is great last year. We appreciate him. Hashtag Hollies for being our player of the week segment. Hashtag Hollies to be the gift. We appreciate Holly and what she does for us. And then also Infinity Promotions, who does our backdrop, which you can see the guys have behind them. Mine's a little different. Once again, I'll bring that out. But the backdrop and our tablecloth that we use for Infinity Promotions, we appreciate all the sponsors. And then we're looking to have a new sponsor come on next week, and we'll talk about that once we get it and we get it all finalized. We'll have a brand new sponsor next week. And like I say, we're always looking for sponsors. You ever want to be a sponsor of the show, we would greatly appreciate it. But tonight we're going to do a little bit different, right? We started last week. We started our weekly pick'em segment. We done it end of the show last week. Well, this week we're going to start with it. We're going to start with our Beat the Dads pick'em of our weekly pick'em that we sent out. And Jonathan and Matthew, we had almost a quarter more people picked this week than we had last week. We hit over the 50 mark this week, which is what we're trying to get to. Now we're going to try to get to 60, right? So we want to up this every week. So we appreciate everybody that come out and been picked this week.
And again, I'm leading the pack here. Go 9-1 again this week. So
actually, if you look at it, technically Coach Jackson from Gornsville won the week.
Right, but between the Dugout Dads, I'm kind of taking y'all out by the woodshed.
Just for a little bit, but just be honest. I mean, there were some questionable games that you could have went either way, and it wasn't really any good matchups this time like there was last week. You know what I'm saying, with Tennessee and Georgia. This week it was just kind of There wasn't any like highlight games that I saw in college football.
But stay tuned because this week there is
Some
bunch.
good ones. Yes.
Yeah, if you look at our weekly pick, you can see our results here. Jonathan, you did beat the dads. I actually took over Matthew this week, but if you look at our overall records, I got to stop picking with my heart and start picking with my brain. I'm 13-7 on the year. We want to recognize too our weekly picker this week. Our weekly guest picker this week was Carthage Mayor Anthony Hackett. Big A, as everybody knows him, picked this week and went 8-2, and that puts them at 14-6 on the year. But if you look at our list here, guys, we appreciate everybody that's doing this, especially Coach Gammons for the middle school and Coach Dyer from the high school, Coach Jackson at Gornsville High School, and then Coach Shaw for Gornsville Junior High, but also Shay Hale from the Courier. She's a weekly picker as well, and she had a good week this week, went 9-1. But we appreciate everybody that's doing this with us.
And Michael, leading into this week, we have Coach Jackson who went 10-0, and we also had 5 other entries this week that were perfect.
We did have 5 other entries this week, and my wife wants to make sure I tell everybody that she was a weekly 10-0 picker this week. She beat me by 2 games, and she made sure I want to tell everybody that she was a weekly 10-0 pick.
And then you look at we had James Baker also went 10-0. Coach Travis Humes went 10-0. And speaking of your wife, my son also went 10-0 this week. And then our winner for this week is Joseph Atkins. He went 10-0. The tiebreaker, he had the Titans scoring 45 points, and I think I believe the total was 61. I believe.
Yeah, I believe that's right. And Mr. Atkins, hey, good job. We'll get with you. You'll see you in your email. We'll shoot you a $20 Amazon gift card over this week. And like I say, guys, hey, keep picking, right? We're going to put them out. We'll put them out tonight for next week's picks. We're trying to get to that 60 mark. So when we share it, put it out there. Please share it with everybody, right? We want have fun with this. We're thinking about even bringing the youth league in and having there's some weekly guys on here in our weekly picks as well. So we appreciate once again everybody that comes in and does our weekly picks.
Absolutely, and keep sharing, keep picking.
Yep, keep sharing, keep picking. Next week we got some interesting games. Next week there is some really really good matchups on the college level, and once again we're staying in the region level for high school as well.
Yes.
And Jonathan, if you want to, and once again we appreciate everybody done that. Congratulations to the winners. Congratulations, if I don't say it one more time, to my wife who went 10-0. She beat me. She wants me to make sure I bring that up every time.
If you would have told me a little bit beforehand, I would have had a nice little special graphic for her that we could have shown. We'll make sure and have that next week.
You probably didn't need all that. But anyway, so Jonathan, if you want to recap the scores of the week.
So looking at some of the scores from around the area, we had Beach beating Upperman 42-27. We had Clay County beating Trouser County in a pretty good matchup. Trouser was up 21-7, and Clay County came back in the second half and beat them 35-27. Lebanon and Coach Chuck Gentry still keeps rolling. They beat Station Camp 35-29. Macon County 42-0 over DeKalb. And I added this one in here. Oakland 38, Siegel 0. In 5 games this year, Oakland has given up 20 points. Wow. So it's pretty amazing what Coach Creasy's doing down there, and it looks like they're on track to go for another state title again in 6A, and they're just a machine down there.
And if you look at it with Coach Creasy, he's in Rutherford County, he's in 6A. He don't rebuild, he just reloads every year.
Exactly. And of course, our 2 local teams, you had Gornsville with a big 42-27 win over Cannon County, and Smith County with a big 18-7 win over Jackson County. And then as far as the middle school played Thursday, and they beat Avery Trace 38-0.
Yeah, and Gornsville Junior High beat Wilson Elementary this past last night. Beat them twice in 1 week, but beat them this Saturday night to get into the CBC championship next week against Westmoreland in Westmoreland. So that's a great segue into Coach John Mark Gammons from Smith County Middle School. He's here. we'll go ahead and bring him in. Matthew, we'll Coach Gammons in. Bring him in, and we'll talk to him here for a few minutes. And Coach, once again, hey, good week on at Smith County Middle School. Good week in the hole for Smith County Middle School. Avery Trace comes in. We actually we said all week long that we want to go 1-0, right? We want to finish out strong. We want to get to where we actually control our own destiny. And with that win, we did that. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a big win for us to finish off the year. Took care of business, like I told the guys. I stressed the guys all week. We knew we were better, and we stressed the guys. Don't deviate down to their standard. Don't deviate down to how they're going to play. We go there and take care of business just like we normally do, and that's exactly what we did. And I mean, shoot, I didn't realize just how small Avery was until we got up. We definitely mismatched them in size probably about 3 or 4 times. It was just completely mismatched, and obviously at the beginning of the game we kind of did what we got to do, and then the first drive we had probably 4 or 5 penalties like on our first offensive possession, and all of them were scores too. Is the crazy thing. And just some little mistakes here and there that I told the guys, hey, we got to minimize that going into the playoffs. That's gonna be costly because we're to a point now, everybody's 0-0, and we can't afford to have those mental errors, those undisciplined mistakes, and cleaning that up going into this week. But yeah, it was big for us to finish off the year with a win in the hole, and we're looking forward to this week.
And Coach Gammons, for me, it's hard to kind of nitpick on a 38-0 win, but for me, it looked. Of course, I was down there on the sidelines doing the chains. Right. It looked to me like it was kind of a sloppy game. You were far more superior than they were.
Absolutely.
But it was one of those instances where there's a lot of things that you can go to the drawing board this week and show these kids, hey, here's where we got to get better if we're going to go 1-0 this week.
Absolutely, and definitely to win 34-0 and come out of it and be, kind of like we could have definitely played better, and we could have. Like there was several missed assignments that we had. I know there was times that we've seen a screen for the first time all year, and like we've got guys running straight up field, and and we're way back in the backfield, and they're getting positive yards off that, and that's something we got to teach better probably, but and there's other things too, like we talked about the penalties. Penalties is sometimes we have a habit of we're bigger, so we can just do what we want to against littler guys, and sure enough, you can't, because they're gonna get you for blocking the backs, and they're gonna get you for holds when you thinking you can get away with that, and you can't. And that's stuff that we got to clean up, and we got to stress harder, going into this week, especially with whoever we play. Which we don't know that until after tomorrow night. But whoever it is, we can't be doing that against those teams, because they can capitalize off of it, and especially in the positive yards they'll get.
Yeah, we look at it like so. We want to control our own destiny, which we do now, right? So we're in the playoffs. We won't know when and who we play until Monday night. Upperman and Macon play Monday night. But we actually did have a question come in on Facebook for you. It says, do you think Smith County Middle will rematch with Macon in the championship?
I think that's a good possibility. I think that Macon, they were kind of in a boat that we were. They get beat obviously by us, and they rebounded themselves this last week against All Good. We were the same way. And I'm good friends with some of them coaches up there at Macon, and and Coach Hughes, you can kind of attest to this. We got complacent, there for a little bit, especially getting comfortable with how we were playing, undefeated, and then we go into Upperman, got a little too complacent, got a little too comfortable, and Upperman hit us in the mouth. And I felt like we did the same thing with Macon, and that we hit them in the mouth when they just kind of weren't expecting it. And so I fully expect them to be ready to go, especially tomorrow night. I think they're going to give Upperman a good run. I think it's a good possibility us and Macon meet up. But don't count out that York team or even the White County team. I think that York, many people will say that they haven't played anybody all year, but there's one thing about York that's always held true since I played, and even beyond before I played. They're physical, and they're going to hit you in the mouth, and they're going to make you like it. They run 4 or 5 plays, but they do a really good job at it. So I think it'll be interesting how to shake out. Obviously it would be a big money grabber if us and Macon County obviously were able to meet up again. But I mean, I could definitely see York can't forget about them as well. They're a good football team, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, and looking at our game against Avery this past Thursday night, we had some players that really had really good games. Like Joseph Antonio really had a great night running the ball. Right, he probably had over 100 yards rushing, and then Colton Jenkins had a pretty decent night passing the ball. Then you look at some other people who got some extra reps in there that usually don't get those reps. Right, you got Titus Russell who gets to play. They put him at the Q just for a few plays there. And then, we have Raymond, one of a new guys that come out who got to carry the ball a few times. You just see that. You love to see that, especially in those games where you're winning that big and getting some extra stuff in there. But I really liked how our defense showed up and played for the last two games, right? Our defense has really come out and really played really physical against Macon and then Henry. And, it really showed the other night. Now, we did have some costly penalties on the defense. Probably been a little over-aggressive there. But I really love how our defense has played for the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. I don't know what switch has clicked with them. I don't know if it was the loss with Upperman's really changed their mindset or what it's been, but they've really stepped it up a notch. They've really took it to heart and being physical. And we've tested them. We've told them, like, you've got to be more physical. Like we've got to be physical at the point of attack every single play in each one of our jobs. And, and that was something we stressed. We felt like we weren't getting that for a little bit. We felt like in certain spots, we just weren't getting that physicality from our guys, and some adjustments I felt like has helped. And then obviously Caden Wilkerson coming back plays a big part off our edge. I think having him, he's one of those guys that, he don't care if he's going up against Derrick Henry or if it's the littlest, it don't matter who it is. He's a guy that brings the energy to our defense. And, I feel like not missing him was a big part, because just how much he gets after it, I feel like influences these other guys in a way that they want to be physical as well. But no, it's been a good outing. I hope that carries over into the playoffs, because we're going to need it, especially if we play a White County team. If Macon ends up winning, we play White County. They got a pretty solid running back. He has a last name of Pinion. And how those Pinions are. They're pretty good athletes. So we're definitely, regardless of who we play, we're definitely going to have to be physical and not let those guys get comfortable in the backfield, letting them do their thing. And if we can do that, I feel really good about it. But it's just something that, you can't coach it. And that's something in their mind they're going to have to say, we're going to be the most physical football team on the field, regardless of who we play. And hopefully that carries over.
And Coach, so how does the scenario play itself out? If Macon County wins tomorrow night, y'all get a home game. If Upperman wins, y'all have to go to
Jamestown. So originally I had thought, for some reason in my mind, I was thinking that Livingston beating Upperman would have, I guess, somewhat canceled out maybe our loss against them in my mind for whatever reason. And that would have automatically gave us the first place, but apparently not. So yeah, if Macon wins tomorrow night, we'll be at home. We'll be the 1 seed, and we actually control our own destiny throughout the playoffs. We get home field advantage as long as we win Saturday night. Thursday night, the next Thursday night, the championship game would also be in the hole as well. But if, obviously if Upperman wins, they have the head-to-head over us. They have the tiebreaker because we would both have one conference loss. But they would have the first tiebreakers head-to-head, which they would have. And we would go to Jamestown. And then at that point, if we were to go to Jamestown and we win, the way we would get a home football game and the championship game is if the number 2. So if White County, say, were to beat Upperman, because Upperman would have to win, then this year our side of the conference gets to host the playoff or the championship game, so it would go to us. But hopefully, I guess I'm a Smith County Owl now, but I'm gonna pull out my inner Macon County Tiger and pull the Tiger tomorrow night, so that way we can get a home playoff games throughout it. So.
Well, Coach, once again, hey, we appreciate you coming on with us. We appreciate you coming on with us every week. Absolutely. And hey, congratulations so far of what we've done so far this season. And, good luck. I know you guys – I wish I could go up with you tomorrow night. I know you guys will be there, rooting for Macon County to go ahead and pull up that win tomorrow night. I'm right there with you. Yeah. But congratulations so far, and we look forward to next week.
I appreciate it. I encourage all the community to come out and watch these guys. Be loud for them. They thrive off that, and hopefully we can make it an electrifying environment. I think we got some fireworks in place and a train horn ready to go for these guys, and something I want to make it feel just like a Friday night playoff game. Just like it does on Friday nights. Do something special for these guys because it's been a good season. And they deserve that. And I'm hopefully we can end this thing in gold, but we got to take care of whoever we got this week. So,
and Coach, congratulations on the regular season, and good luck from this point moving forward.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all guys, and hopefully come on here next Sunday, and hopefully we'll be talking about a championship game following Thursday. So
good deal.
Thanks, Coach.
Right. See y'all.
Like I say, Coach Gam's being on. Me, getting to be a part of this team. It's such a fun time, right? It's such a great time. I love being able to do that. I love being able to be a part of it and watch how we've kind of grew up a little bit right this year, and to see that is pretty awesome.
Absolutely, and it's a testament to him, to you, to the coaching staff on this season, and bright things are ahead for these boys.
Yep. So now, moving from the middle school level, we'll move to the high school level. Coach Dyer's here, and Mr. Andrew's going to let Coach Dyer in. We'll go ahead and get started with him.
Having a technical difficulty.
It always works, right? Technology, man. Yes. That's how it goes, ain't it? And you just love technology.
It's great when it works.
It is great when it works. Matthew, if you can't let Coach Dyer in, I can let him in. We'll bring him in and see if I can let him in. There we go. Coach Dyer, there you are.
Hey, man, I like that background drop. Looks pretty good there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's rubbed it in the whole time he's been on. So
I reckon, man. There you go.
I hear y'all getting a little bit of rain, and I ain't getting no rain here.
Yeah, a little bit. It's raining on the roof right now. If you can hear it here, it's a little pitter patter on the tin.
We need it.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you joining us, and come out Friday night and we get our first region win. We get back on the right track here, and watching you guys play. Jackson County comes in. It's kind of a back and forth battle there for a little while, but you guys finally took over in the second half and did what you needed to do to win the game. You saw some positive things this week that we hadn't seen in the last few weeks. Your penalties were down, almost half of what you've had traditionally so far this year. But, talk about a little bit of Friday night and how you guys corrected what you needed to get that win.
Well, the biggest thing is, I know it wasn't pretty and it was sloppy, but, a wise coach once told me is that I'll always take an ugly win over a good loss any day of the week, especially a region win. So, yeah, but we did have some positives. There was some – if that gets too loud, do I need to go inside?
Go ahead. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
All right.
You might get wet anyway.
Tell you what, I can barely hear. I can't hear y'all. Hold on. Sounds like hell coming down on the roof. There we go. I won't have as good a backdrop as Coach Hughes right there, but we can still look out the window like we're Big Bear in the Blue House or whatever.
That's right.
But no, it was an ugly win. We did not play to the best of our potential, but potential is such an ugly word anyway because everybody's got potential, and like the select few are always going to either rise to the occasion or sit there and realize their potential and do something with it. But we did have some positives. Biggest thing was defensively. I saw some real big positive things for us defensively, especially out of some of our guys that we kind of moved around into different positions, especially to combat what Jackson County was doing. Guy Daniel Bain. Daniel Bain had one heck of a night. He was probably our highest graded out defender, and you could tell just by the way he played the game. He played super fast. He played aggressive. He played violently. He was running all over the field. And Rustin Kent probably had his best game of the night. But Jackson County had a really good game plan. They didn't have a whole lot of team speed. Their two best players were probably 22 and 1. They were their big home run threats. They didn't even start their starting quarterback until 6 minutes left in the game when we were up 2 scores. That's how confident Jackson was in their game plan and how they were going to stick to it. So, Coach Loftus and them, they did a good job of sticking to their game plan. They knew they wanted to limit our offensive possessions. And, in the first half, we only had 4 offensive possessions. We had the 3 and out on our first possession. We had the field goal, we had the punt, and we had a touchdown. And I think Jackson County only had 3 possessions in the first half, which was a touchdown, a punt, and the kneel down. So, by them taking every single second off of the clock that they could with their play clock and whatnot, we really had to fight for our yardage, fight for our possessions. And it showed up at the end of the game when I think total yardage, we had 40 something plays. We had 41 plays, I believe, for 190 yards, maybe. And I think Jackson had 39 or 38 plays for 150, something like that. So it was a limited number of plays. It was limited time of possession, and it was limited yardage. And a lot of that was compounded too because we caused so many turnovers. I think we ended up having 3 interceptions on the night. But the problem with that was we did not capitalize on those turnovers offensively. I believe the 3 interceptions that we had resulted in 3 and outs. And that can't happen. Your defensive job is to get extra possessions for your offense. And when we got those extra possessions, to put the kind of dagger in to increase our lead, to make things really uncomfortable with Jackson, we didn't do that. But we did kind of play the game Jackson wanted to play. Okay, we'll play the keep away game. We'll play the field position game. We're up 2 scores. We'll take as much time off the clock as we can with these extra possessions, and then we'll punch the ball back to you on your side of the 20. And speaking of players that had a really good night, I mentioned Daniel Bain and Rustin Kemp. Dadgum Bradley Pickett had a monster night, whether it was his punts, his field goal, extra point. That extra point was huge. I remember Coach Jett and Coach Hackett and myself sitting there talking. Is like, do we want to, try to go for the 2 or, our swinging gate, or do we got enough, faith in Bradley Pickett that he can nail this extra point to make an 11-point ball game instead of 10 to where, they're going to have to score 2 touchdowns. And it was like, hey, let's kick the extra point. It's a sure thing. So, and Pickett has done a great job this year, and he's taken such great pride. But I love his enthusiasm. Whenever he's out there, you can tell he's having fun. And I kind of wish that would rub off on a lot of our other guys. Guys like Bain. You could tell when Bain was out on the field because he's jumping around, he's whooping, he's hollering, he's excited, with big plays. And that's what we got to have, more passion, more enthusiasm from all the other 10 guys on the field, other than our kicker, punter, and, a defensive specialist in Bain. But no, a lot of good things, some positives. Still got some negatives we've got to work on. You mentioned the penalties. We have done a better job of that, of cutting back on those penalties. But biggest thing is the same thing that's kind of played is we've got to become more efficient on offense with our possessions. We're relying too much on the big play. We're relying too much on a scramble drill. We're relying on off-script kind of plays where something breaks down and we just try to create something with our athleticism. At some point, we're going to have sustained drives. We're going to have to be able to run the ball more effectively. And if we hope to continue our run in this region and continue this effort into the second half of this season, where if we want to keep winning ball games, we're going to have to find ways to do that offensively. But defensively, our guys answered the challenge. We made an adjustment here or two, not much, at halftime with their big beast or monster stack, whatever you want to call it, because Jackson County made their motives very clear when they came out. And number 1 was at quarterback, and number 51 was their second tight end. They said, we're going to run the ball. You're going to have to stop us. And we're happy if it's 4 or 5 yards a pop. Let's go. And but I thought our guys adjusted very well to that. After the first series, we forced them in a 3 and out. Their second series is when they had the touchdown. But once again, that was aided by 30 yards in penalties. We had the horse collar tackle, which to me was, in my biased opinion, I don't think it was a horse collar, but They said it was. And then we had the late hit, which looking back on film, it was a late hit. You know, it was a hustle play. We were arguing to the ref. He's hustling to the ball, blow the whistle quicker. But after watching film, it was a late hit. But you know, when we aided that drive with 30 yards worth of penalties, and we had them at one point, I believe, in 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 13, and they were able to convert. You know, that's things we got to clean up and fix. But after that drive that they scored, our defense really buckled down. Now we were aided by a penalty too on their possession right before halftime, where I believe they had a chop block called against them, and then they had a holding call against them. You know, they were knocking on our doorstep, and those penalties kind of helped us out too, backed them up behind the chains, and they ended up having to take the kneel down, or that might have been in the 3rd quarter. I can't remember right now. But no, our defense did a great job of rising to the occasion, getting the stops that we needed. Our special teams did a great job of pinning Jackson's offense and helping us play the field possession game. Another one, Landon Blevins. The fact that he was able to field those punts, even if he was calling a fair catch and didn't get a return, the fact that he was able to field those at around the 50 or 40 yard line and not let them roll or lose, 10, 15, 20 yards, that was huge because we were able to play around midfield or on their side of the 50, and it gave us a little bit more leeway in what we wanted to do, whether it was go for 4th down or play the field position and pin them deep. So, that was another guy that had a really good night for us on special teams.
And Coach, for me, I saw you a couple of times talking to your running backs, and I do want to touch on the running game a little bit. You know, we're not getting the big splash plays in the run game, and to me, it looks like we're running a little bit too sideline to sideline and not running north and south. And I think I saw you talking to a couple of the running backs and Friday night about that, maybe because I saw you kind of turn their pads. And so speak on that a little bit, and running north and south, the shortest point between two distances is a straight line.
And, and anybody can tell that's been watching us play this year, we've had a really hard time getting north and south, whether it's running our quarterback, running our running backs. Our guys have not done a very good job of getting behind their pads. We've had plenty of 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s, 4th and 1s this year that we've not been able to convert. Just trying to run an ISO or power or counter or, wedge, quarterback sneak that we've not been able to convert because we're not getting behind our pads. We're not firing off. We feel like everything has to be the home run ball and we got to score on every play instead of the mentality of I have to gain 1 yard or 2 yard. What can I do to gain this 1 or 2 yards? And it's get behind my pads, put my head down, and just go forward. We got to do a lot better job of that. And you're right. There was times where I was talking to our backs about, when we're stretching something out on either our outside zone or our buck sweep, put that foot in the ground, turn upfield, get north and south, run where we want you to run, read your blocks. If it's outside zone, we're sitting there teaching our Y and our F, they're reaching 1 and reaching 2. Well, teaching our backs that if his shoulder pads are flat, okay, you can't see his numbers, continue to run wide, run around the defense because they got a good block. You can get to the edge, okay. If you see their numbers, if you see that they're turned, they can't get that read, you put your foot in the ground and you turn north and south. So just teaching them how to do that, how to be a running back, it has been a big challenge for us. But then also just understanding down and distance. When we need that 1 or 2 yards, being able to get behind their pads, put 2 hands on the ball, and just go forward. And then the biggest thing too with our other run game issues, one, it's if we're getting no cutoff on the backside. It's a backside tackle, letting a 4-eye or letting a 5 technique cross his face and run us down in the backfield. Or it's a backside linebacker that we're not coming off of on a double team or on a down block and picking up, and he's just scraping free. So it's the old adage that you got 11 guys out there doing their job. If 10 do their job and 1 don't, you're going to get exposed. And we've been exposed quite a bit this year. So what me and Coach Reed have talked about. We'll have 1 guy not do his job and we're getting exposed, and it's leading to negative yardage plays or plays that can't quite get what we need out of it. Like the first time we run counter Friday night on our first drive, I believe it was 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 3, I can't remember, and our F pulls into our tackle. He didn't get the right depth, And it was going to be a one-on-one play. If he would have wrapped and got on the linebacker, then it would have been our running back on their safety who was 15 yards deep, and it could have been a big play. But coulda, woulda, shoulda. We had one guy not do his job correctly, and it led to a no gain play, and we had to punt. So it's little things like that we've got to fix. We got to shore up. The ability there, the faith in our guys to execute it just goes down to, are you doing the little things right? Are you getting enough depth on your pulls? Are you stepping your inside foot on the down block? It's about our guys being more disciplined and in order to create those big plays. And even in the pass game, our quarterback's got to let go of the ball. He can't hold on to it all night. He's got to look where he's got to look. He's got to set his feet. We've got receivers that need to run the routes that they're supposed to run, not how they want them run them, how they're coached to run them. They got to understand the leverage in the secondary. And now I'll tell you what, our pass protection was a lot better. I thought our pass protection was very well Friday night, especially for what Jackson County was wanting to do. They were wanting to bring those overhangs hot off the edge. I thought our backs did a good job in pass protection. I thought our tackles did very well in pass protection. So that was a big improvement from what we've seen in weeks past, is that our pass protection was a lot better. That goes to our offensive line and Coach Jett for improving that. But once again, you can't have one thing improve and then two things, get worse. So especially going through week 5 of the season, we're through the first half, and we've got to find something that we're good at. We can't be a jack of, a lot of trades and, a master of none. And that's where we're at right now. We got to find something we can hang our hat on, find our identity, and just take pride in what we do. We got to have guys that take pride in their role, take pride in their job, and then execute that to the best of their ability. And like you said, we're seeing flashes of it, but it's got to be a more consistent thing that we see out of our guys.
And that was actually the coach question tonight, was how you get the running game going. So you touched on that. So we'll move on past that. So now you're right. We're halfway through the season, right? Now we start the back half of our season. We start the grind for the playoffs, and it starts week 6 going to Trousdale County, right? You've been a part of that staff. You know the tradition there. You know how it is to go into the Creek Bank and play. They are a young team. But what are you looking for? What are you preparing for this week going to Trousdale County?
The biggest thing is we're going to have to combat their speed. They've got some really fast backs. They've got really good team speed. They're not as big as some of the teams that we've played. We've played some monstrous teams. Jackson County was huge up front, offense, defense. Clay County was huge up front. Westmoreland was huge. Watertown was big. So, we've been an undersized line every game we've played in up to this point, offensively and defensively. But going against Trousdale County, they're built a lot like we are. There's no one up front, offense or defensively, that's just a monster, that's real big or strong. They're very quick. They're very aggressive defensively. They are going to get to the football. And, we're going to have to match that intensity, exceed that pursuit to the ball. So how do we do that? We get the ball out to the perimeter. If we want to be successful Friday night against Trousdale County, we've got to get the ball to the perimeter, whether it's jet sweeps, outside zone, bubbles, nows, quick screens. We got to get the ball out there, but we got to block on the perimeter. We did not block very well on the perimeter. Our receivers and our backs did not block very well on the perimeter Friday night, so we got to fix that. We got to do a lot better job of that. And then let's see, offensively, like I said, we've got to be able to get lined up with their formations. They're going to show a bunch of different formations, and we're going to have to gang tackle. We can't let their fast guys get out to the open and outrun us for big plays. We're going to have great pursuit to the football. We're going to have to string things out to the sideline. And I do believe we're better up front defensively than they are offensively. I think we've got some guys that can cause problems for them to where we can mess with their system, mess with their offense. But once again, it's got to come down to we've got to tackle better. We got to gang tackle. We've got to win those one-on-one matchups up front and force them into throwing the ball. If we can force them into throwing the ball, we'll be a lot better off not letting them just run the ball off tackle or, to the perimeter or whatnot. But, they're a very well coached team. They're much improved. They're young. They're very freshman and sophomore heavy, much like we are sophomore, junior heavy. Coach Gregory, they've done a really good job. They're a confident football team right now. I can't remember what the record is. It's 2-3.
I believe that's right.
Well, they're either 2 or 3, 1-4. I know they
They're 1-4.
1-4. Okay, yeah. They beat Innovation. That's right. They beat Innovation. Had a close game with Clay last week. Got beat by Macon pretty big and got beat by Friendship. But they're a much improved team. They're a confident team, and they're going to give us all they got. Because just like we told our guys last week with Jackson County, in a 5-team region, you got spots 1 through 4 going. Each region game is a playoff game. It's as simple as that. So you're playing for your playoff spots right now. You should be playing this game like it's a win or go home deal. Now, we helped ourselves out last week where we probably solidified a playoff spot by getting that one region win. But if we want to host a playoff game and if we want to win this region, this is another game that we have to have. And that's how we're going to go into it. And that's how we're going to prepare for it. But yeah, it should be a very competitive game. Trials is going to give us their best, and we're going to have to match that intensity and that effort.
And Coach, for me, it seems like to me they keep getting better each and every week. And as a program that, like you say, has a lot of sophomores and freshmen playing, but they're gaining confidence each and every week. And we know crazy things happen down there on that creek bank. I've seen a lot of crazy things happen down there. So we do wish you the best of luck this week, going 1-0. It's going to be a fun atmosphere. We hope everybody comes out. And flipping back to this previous week's game and our player of the week, we are giving it this week to Riley Martin. Felt like he had one of his best game in the season from my perspective. So if you'll talk about him a little bit, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, Riley did have a very good game. He probably did have one of his better games running the ball. He finally kind of put those shoulder pads down, put his shoulder pads forward, head down, and he picked up some tough yards for us. There was 2 first down runs that he made for us that were very big and instrumental in us scoring a touchdown and scoring a field goal in the first half. And then he made some really good throws to Cole Hackett down the field, being able to kind of get that connection going between him and Cole. But he's a guy that we've really relied on a lot. We lean on him a lot. We're trying to alleviate some of the stuff that we rely on him, to where if we can make easier reads for him, increase protection for him, allow him to rely on his athletic ability a little bit more. And so we hope that will continue into the season, much like it did Friday night. Him extending plays with his legs, that's going to be a weapon that he's going to have to continue to utilize if we want to kind of stay on script, stay ahead of the chains, and he didn't turn the ball over. So, he had a really good night, and he's fine-tuning his craft where he's becoming more of a runner with his legs, creating off-script plays. We can run him with designed runs, and I think he's going to continue to get better at that. Riley, very deserving of player of the game. I think he had 125 pass yards and maybe like 40-something rush yards. And then he had the passing touchdown to Gage Gibbs. Yes, very deserving for Player of the Week award. He did have a very good game, and I expect him to keep getting better as the year goes on.
And, Coach, well, we appreciate you. We appreciate your time. Hey, congratulations on our first region win. We're going now. Let's hit this back half of the season. Let's go make that playoff run, and let's get one of those top 2 spots and host one here in the whole. I know that's what we're gunning for. So congratulations to you, and good luck this week, Friday night in Charleston County.
Guys, appreciate y'all and everything you do, man. All right, hope we get some more good stuff to talk about next week. All right.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks,
guys.
Coach.
See y'all.
But having Coach Dyer come in, man, and right, they finally get that region win. You get that 3-game losing skid off your back. So, hopefully that turns it around for those guys, and you see positive things after the second half of the season.
Absolutely. And he's going to ride the ship. I mean, they're very, maybe 5 plays from being, 4-1 on the season. So not all is lost. It did look, you never want to have a 3-game losing streak, but you just want to consistently see your team get better. And I saw a team Friday night that was taking that next step and getting better. And I saw a lot of enthusiasm on the sidelines that I hadn't seen in the prior weeks.
Yeah, and you're talking about streaks. Let's flip over to the south side of the county and look at Gornsville, 5-0. They go undefeated. They go down to Cannon County and play a pretty good Cannon County team and come out of that with a win. And now they're 5-0 in the season, 1-0 in the region as well. So you look at it, Lawrenceville they got the train moving in the right direction right now, right? They're 5-0, and they've kind of beaten everybody up, and I don't know if they've really been tested. I mean, I think Cannon might have tested them a little bit. Cofield tested them early in the year, and that game ended as a no contest, which I think they end up giving Lawrenceville the win on that one. But Lawrenceville's got the ship going in the right direction right now.
Yes, the train is moving, or the ship, whatever you want to call it, is moving in the right direction on the south side over at Lawrenceville. And you look at it, they weren't as balanced this week. They only threw the ball twice.
Yeah.
But they still had over 320 yards of total offense. Now, they gave up. There was a very offensive driven game because you had Cannon County put up over 400 yards of offense. So, and the one big turnover kind of was maybe the difference in the ball game, and the big 85-yard interception return. You look at it, it's 42-17, and kind of a wash in the second half because they each scored 7, or they each scored 14 in the second half. So a really good game, and on the ground, man. What else can you say about Turner Booker right now? I mean, he is, and Lee Skurlock with 3 touchdowns, but Turner Booker has taken that running back position and just dominating right now.
And you look at it, you talk about, when they have a good running team, you think about a 2-headed beast, right? Lawrenceville has like a 4-headed beast right now. You got Booker, you got Skurlock running the ball, you got the JT Summers who come from the cab over to Lawrenceville now who's running the ball, and then you throw Jay Foster in the mix, then you got 4 guys that are very explosive and can break plays. Skurlock had 3 touchdowns on the week. So I mean, they're not long runs, but he did have, I think his longest run for a touchdown was 14 yards, but still, he playing that H fullback position there. You got a 4-headed monster right now that you don't have to throw the ball. You're right, Jonathan. They have 306 yards on the ground in 40 carries. I mean,
yes.
I know that's a Coach Jackson offense. They want to run the ball, right? And they're really running the ball right now. And it seems to me that nobody really has the answer for it at the moment.
Well, and we don't even know. You got Jamario Williams, who got nicked up in the first game and has not really come back from that yet. So there's another key piece that down the road, I'm sure he's getting better and going to be out there sooner rather than later. So it's a testament to Coach Jackson and his coaching staff. And again, that ball control offense is good when the weather changes, gets cold. You got to want to at that point in time when those temperatures drop and they're hitting you every play, and that's going to open big things up in the second half for bigger runs in the second half of the season.
It is, and keeping the theme for the player of the week, we're going to a quarterback on the south side. Jay Foster is the Dugout Dash player of the week. He has a big 85 interception return for a touchdown that kind of changed the game and the momentum just a little bit. Because it's 7-0, I think. Cannon County's driving, and he picks one off, and I just happen to look up, and he's running down the sidelines with nobody even around him. So kind of a change setter there to get that interception return for a touchdown. So Jay Foster, you are our Dugout Dash player of the week. Congratulations to you. Jay handed the ball off 40 times as a quarterback. That's an easy night for you, right? You hand it off to your running backs. You run the ball. I think he had 2 carries. So 38 times he handed the ball off, let somebody else do something. So what a great night for a quarterback.
Absolutely. And Jay's kind of a 2-way player. He plays both ways. Tough kid, but a really great night from him, both on the offensive and defensive side.
Yeah. So congratulations to Gorns on 5-0. Jonathan, who do they got this week?
So looking at some of the matchups next week, you've got Upperman. They're going to DeKalb County. You got Hillsboro going to Lebanon. Cannon County goes to Clay County. Smith County, of course, we talked about, goes to Trousdale, and Gordonsville travels to Jackson County this coming Friday night. So that should be, Jackson County got Smith County so they're getting Smith County out of the way that they back-to-back weeks, but that should be a good game. And, I look for big things out of Gordonsville going to Jackson County this week.
Yeah, so congratulations to the Tigers once again, 5-0 in the season, starting that back half again. And Jonathan, I sat there and talked to my wife earlier. It is week 6 of high school football. It feels like yesterday We just started with our show, started talking about week 1, and now here we are going into week 6.
Absolutely. We're almost through the month of September. It's crazy to think how long we wait for it and how quickly it goes by. I mean, like you said, we're halfway through the regular season, and the second half starts basically this Friday night. So, you've got about another month before the playoffs kick off and start. So, buckle your chin straps and get ready, because now is when it really is going to start to matter more now.
Before we jump into the college football ranks for just a couple of minutes, I want to talk about the Beach Upperman game real quick, because we got a Caden Powell who was at Smith County for a long time, moved over to the Beach, had a magnificent game, right? 213 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns to lead Beach over an Upperman team that, I'll be honest, I picked. You just look at the matchup, and Upperman has just been outscoring everybody a lot, right? But then you look at Caden Powell, who comes in, has 200 yards rushing. He started out the year sharing the duties with the quarterback a little bit, but I would say after Friday night, he probably takes that reign and he don't give it back up.
I wouldn't think so. Again, Caden, he 2 weeks ago breaks the Beach all-time record for passing, and then of course has a great ball game on Friday night. Caden is a great kid. There's big things on the horizon. Of course, Kentucky baseball signee, and I look for them to be a problem moving forward in that 4A classification, and I look for them to have a very deep, as long as they stay healthy, have a deep playoff run this year.
Yeah. Now moving on to the college ranks, we'll talk about college football in a little while. I'm going to start this week on the Vanderbilt side of the house, right? Vanderbilt gets Georgia State, comes into Nashville, and Vanderbilt puts up 70, right? Am I a Vanderbilt Commodore fan? Not at all. But you can't take away of what they've accomplished so far this season, right? They're sitting undefeated on the year. They start SEC play this week too. No, they don't. I don't think they've started SEC play this week, do they? I think they have. I think their schedule is they play one more.
Utah State. They play Utah State this week,
and then they go back into SEC play. But I mean, you can't really just discard the fact of what they're doing on West End right now. Clark's got them turned around on a different path, and it looks like a different Vanderbilt team that's whooping in the past.
Well, and you look last year, they get beat by Georgia State, and then they run them out of the stadium yesterday by scoring 70 points. And I've got another stat for you. This is the first time Vandy has been ranked in September since 1956.
Wow.
So the Commodores are going to be a problem moving forward for anybody that they play on their remaining schedule.
I really want to see them get into SEC play just to see how they match up SEC guys. You look at Georgia State, and then you look at Tennessee, who plays UAB this week. Not really a matchup for those guys. Any SEC team should beat those out-of-conference teams like that. But I'm really anxious to see Vanderbilt get into SEC play. But I'm talking about Tennessee, right? They come out and they have a great first half of football, right? Once again, they start fast. They go down the field and score on their first 4 possessions of the game. Everything's running right. You get in the second half, and the starters play 1 series each. You saw that. Then they pull them. And the game kind of gets a little bit sloppy there. They give up a couple of touchdowns to UAB. So I really don't talk about that part of it much, really the starter part of it. But Tennessee, once again, offensively, what a juggernaut right now. They are on point compared to what they are with Nico last year, who you thought was going to be, what we wanted, what you needed there to take you up and down the field in a Josh Heupel offense. But then you look at Joey Aguilar, who's really running the offense the way that Josh Heupel wants to.
Absolutely, and doing a great job doing it. And for me, Michael, I want to talk about the 5 guys up front on the offensive line. Tennessee's and the 3 running backs in Star Thomas, Peyton Lewis, and
Bishop.
That's a problem for, and Heupel's going to ride the hot hand. I personally think, for me, I think Star Thomas needs to be getting more carries. But, I heard them say, I read a quote from them today saying, well, it's more about the team. Sure, we want more carries, but it's more about the team. And the 5 guys up front, the offensive line, without highly touted freshman David Sanders is doing an outstanding job right now of opening up the holes. And again, we have to take it with a grain of salt because it is UAB. But it's very exciting to see how Aguiar is able to manufacture this offense better than Nico did. And we were all Nico lovers last year at this time, and what he was doing for us. And it's funny how a year later, how that has changed. And it seems to me the experience and the work ethic of Aguiar just fits better in that system.
Yeah, and you look at Tennessee now; they go down to Mississippi State this week, get back into SEC play. You know, Mississippi State's kind of right now the lower echelon in the SEC, but you never know, right? You get SEC teams like that, and you never know what happens when you go on the road in the SEC.
Well, it's the big thing is you're going to see SEC speed, you're going to see SEC size, and that's the biggest thing. And the SEC is going to beat each other up, regardless. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Mississippi State's unbeaten, and they beat a really good Arizona State team, a playoff team from a couple of years ago. Went down to Starkville and got beat. So traveling on the road in the SEC is never going to be easy. You do like Tennessee's chances. You hope that they can get off to a fast start, and that's the key for me with Tennessee is when they start fast, they're really good. Just don't let this team hang around, make it a fourth quarter game because Levy and his staff, that's what he wants. He wants to get it to a fourth quarter game. Doesn't want Tennessee to get them out of it. They don't want to get into a shootout. And for Tennessee, let's make this a shootout. Let's put them away in the first half like we've done the last few weeks. Come out of Starkville with a win.
Well, Matthew, I'll let you chime in for a minute. And this is what happens when you work remote and you're doing these shows remote. My wife went to the beach and forgot her door key. So give me just a second. Let me go let her in, and I'll be right back.
I love it. Parker, what's your take on the UAB player going up and stepping on our kicker's foot right after the play? I mean, that was – I mean, not only was it a cheap shot, but it was just uncalled for and unsportsmanlike in itself. I think it was kind of a debate of whether or not that could be considered as targeting, honestly. What's your thoughts?
Well, for me, that was a Bush League play. You listen to Stinchcomb, and that should have been an immediate ejection. I mean, the kid he's a kicker, and his only job, he's not out there to tackle or do he's out there to kick, and then you walk by him and you step on his foot.
His kicking foot at that. I mean, that's about as the equivalent of just headbutting a linebacker in my sense, because that's his one gift to do and his one job, and it's just bad.
We got a comment here. Mark Sampson says the Doors put up 70. Look out, SEC. We can't really comment on Homer Vanderbilt fans because they put up 70 on Georgia State. When they put up 70 on Georgia, then I'll say they're ready to go.
Or 44. Or 41.
Or 41. Yeah. You score 41 or more, then we'll talk. But guys, once again, great show. And I know you guys are jealous of my backdrop, and I figured I'd bring it up. You guys are getting rain. We don't have any rain here, just to let you guys know. But I'm glad we're getting rain at home as well, though.
And to be honest with you, you also want to. I would be remiss if I didn't say we started fall baseball for Smith County Little League this past week. Got some great talent coming out of there. It's been interesting so far because you get everybody from coach pitch to on up. So it's been great for them. And then also Smith County Youth Soccer League has started back up for this fall season. So sports are out in the county everywhere, not just football. It's everything. So,
and speaking of that, I also meant to say the regional or the district golf tournament was held this past week at Cedar Crest. We had Carter Gibson. He won the individual medal with a 68, and Jude Summers also will be moving on to the region, and Millie Stannett and Landon Kent also will be moving on to the regionals this coming week up at the Golden Eagle Club in Cookeville. So congratulations to them. There's a lot of good things happening. We are going to reach out to you guys to come on the show. So be looking for that coming up. But just congratulations to you guys too.
Yep. And guys, once again, great show. Appreciate everybody that joins our show. Appreciate all the questions that come in tonight. Appreciate everybody that watches our show. And once again, our sponsors, Kobe McKinney with Underwood Realty is our title sponsor. We appreciate him. Hashtag Hollies and Be the Gift for our Player of the Week segment. And then Infinity Promotions for our backdrop and our tablecloth. So we appreciate all of them. So from the Dugout Dads, where our skills are questionable,
but our spirit is unstoppable.
until next time.